of my sweet shattered dream.
Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. Senator Paul, good morning. Well, great to be with you. We've been talking about you all morning, been playing excerpts from your speech, exchange with the students. First of all, very much admire what you did. I think this is exactly what folks ought to do, and good for you for doing it, sir.
Well, I was preparing for the speech. We were trying to steal one of your quotes. You had a quote about food safety. You remember that in education?
Oh, yes.
Read it for us.
Yeah, sir?
Yes.
Oh, you want it? Oh, yeah. I said, I remember when they had a scare with a hamburger out in Oregon. They went out and closed down the restaurant. You serve up rotten hamburger, they'll close you down faster than you can shake your head. But you serve up a rotten education to kids year after year after year, and you get more money from the federal government.
And that's exactly right. We've tripled the amount of spending per pupil. We've cut the classroom size in half, and still the education's rotten. And the one thing that might help us would be letting kids have a choice where they go to school. And, you know, I defy anybody to interview some of the parents of these kids in D.C. who have gotten to go to either a private school or a better public school and say why we shouldn't let this happen.
You bet. Now, listen, again, what you did yesterday, you said it's a daunting task for Republicans. Black voters, just not voting for Republicans. Think you made any headway yesterday? First of all, your going itself was significant and important. By the way, our listeners, Senator Paul, loved it. They just applaud you for doing it.
You know, I think, yes, it started a dialogue. I can't say that I converted anybody, and it may have been 100% Democrat audience. I laughed in the beginning and said I was kind of nervous because I heard there might be a few Democrats in the audience. But it was a largely young Democrat audience. But I wanted them to know that the Republican Party is not hostile to civil rights. In fact, the Republican Party's history is so intertwined with civil rights and voting rights that it's hard to separate our history. And I told the story of one young man, William Worley, who was a black attorney in Louisville, who fought the Jim Crow law all the way to the Supreme Court and won.
Right. I think what most impressed me was you and I would disagree, I think, on some aspects of government, drug laws, and things like that. But what most impressed me and my audience, I think, was that you put it out there. You told the truth. You said, look, the objective evidence is that big government is not a friend of African Americans. And, that was a strong thing to say. What kind of reaction to that did you get?
You know, I think receptive, and I think people were, I don't think the audience had really heard a Republican. I think Colin Powell was the last Republican to give a speech there 20 years ago.
Interesting.
And so I think they were open to hearing the message. I don't know that I converted everybody, but I think they were open to hearing the message. And really, if the Republican Party wants to be a national party, we need to convince people of all walks of life, whether you're someone who's on unemployment or trying to get ahead or get your first job, that big government and debt is preventing you from getting a job. It's causing your gas prices to be higher so you can't take your family on vacation. It's causing your food prices to be higher. If senior citizens knew this and the working class knew this, then we would become the party of those who want to try to get ahead.
Yeah, you acknowledged, I think, something very important in your speech. Again, it was very honest. You said, look, Democratic presence is tangible. I understand, you get a check, puts food on the table. We're talking what for many folks is an abstraction about meaningful success, something that'll come in the future. How do we make that more concrete? The audience said, more specific examples of how, government-mandated minimum wage ends up losing jobs for people, things like that.
Walter Williams has been great. He's an economist from George Mason. He's talked about how black unemployment, black teenage unemployment has all been made worse by minimum wage laws, how Davis-Bacon laws were originally instituted so white labor unions could keep out any kind of black laborers from getting jobs. And so I think that's true, but ultimately we have to convince them, and this isn't changing our message, it's trying to present our message better, that when Reagan reduced taxes dramatically, when he left more money in the economy grew at 7%. 8 million jobs were created. It's the only way it's going to ever happen, but we can't give up and just say, taxing rich people more, we'll only do a little bit of that, we'll do revenue-neutral tax reform. We need tax reform that leaves a ton of money, billions of dollars more in the hands of people who earned it, and I think we'd get jobs created.
We got to let you go here in a minute and a half. I thought the climactic moment was the student who stood up and said, No, sir. I'm Keenan Glover. You'll remember this. He said, I want a government that will help me. I want a government that helps pay for my education. You gave a nice answer. But that's it. That's the challenge, isn't it? Why won't you be in favor of a big government that will help me, Senator Paul?
Well, you know, one of the things that my wife says, she loves this all the time, is that I'm not against government. I'm for $2.6 trillion worth of government. I just want government to spend what comes in. So I'm not even against government loans, things like that for students. We just can't borrow from China to do it, because then when you get out of school, you'll have that government debt and you'll have no job. So we need to have balanced budgets, and there's probably room for some help for kids who need help within that budget.
You know, I just want to say, I know colleges and universities, you know stuff a lot more than I do. I know them. You left kids there leaving and thinking, and they're talking about it today, and that's mission accomplished. Well done, sir. Well done, Senator Paul.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, sir.